Hello and welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that teaches you how to find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer, and today, surprise, co-host.
Look out, everybody!
Renee is not able to be here today, and so I am riding side saddle.
Are you wearing a dress?
No, I sort of think of myself as the co-pilot, but maybe I'm more of like the flight attendant. Like I just want to serve drinks and flirt with the passengers.
I wish you would.
Oh, any flight attendants out there, I know you're there for safety, so please.
We understand.
I was just joking.
How are you? How was your week?
I'm doing really well. Oh my God, did I tell you about the bird we had in the house?
Again?
Yes.
Seriously?
Well, I leave my screen door open for the dog so he can go in and out of the patio. And here's the thing: my dog will bark at squirrels and chase whatever he sees. Mm-hmm. This bird flew in the house, and the dog just looked at it like, "Hi, welcome."
Well, maybe it's his special bird friend. Maybe it was the same bird that was here last time, and they're buddies.
Perhaps Buddy has a buddy.
Buddy has a bird buddy. Bird buddies.
It's the one creature he will not bark at is the thing that scares me.
Is the one that shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, see, I had a grandmother that said, maybe it's an old wives' tale, but...
Tippi Hedren?
No, yes, it was. Maybe it was because it was Tippi Hedren. But that a bird in the house is bad luck.
Really?
Yes.
A wild bird?
A wild bird, like a bird flying around the house.
Well, it is bad luck, because who wants a bird flying around their house? So, yeah, that wouldn't be a lucky day.
There were no birds harmed in this story. The bird eventually got out.
Have you seen the Irish video of the Irish family where there's a bat in their kitchen?
Oh, yes. Yes, I've seen that video.
And whoever is videotaping is the funniest thing in the world. I can't remember who he's saying, get it, Tommy. It's not Tommy. I don't remember what it is. But anyway, I'll look it up. It's Irish family with bat.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if that happened to me. I would be dead on the floor just from a heart attack because a bat in my house.
Really?
I just can't even imagine. I didn't even want a baseball bat in the house. I had a really bad Little League experience.
I've been dive bombed by bats in theatrical productions.
Do tell. That's really an interesting little tidbit.
Well, I was doing summer stock in Maine one year.
Were you doing Dracula?
No, but you know what? We did Phantom at the beginning of the summer, but that's not when it dive bombed us, because that would have been perfect. It was living up in the rafters. But we were doing, I was South Pacific.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm going to wash that bat right out of my hair.
It was In Love with a Wonderful Guy. And she was in the middle of the stage and it just started like swooping down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awesome. Okay, let's get into the big show, shall we? Correction Corner. First off, and I wasn't sure about this last week. It didn't feel right. My father died in 2009, not in 2007. My biological father.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's been nine years.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that because,
And how long had he been gone when you found out that he was your biological father?
Well, it was a year ago, so I guess 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You used the word ersatz last week.
Ersatz. Yes.
And you thought it might be appropriate for your signing off?
Yes.
Okay, you tell me. If you describe something as ersatz, you dislike it because it's not genuine and is a poor imitation of something better.
That describes me to a T. Ersatz producer, Ersatz musician, Ersatz songwriter, Ersatz co-host.
Happy accidents. Yeah, I wouldn't describe you that way.
I love that you looked that up just to make sure.
I said I was going to.
Yeah.
I always do what I say I'm going to do.
You do. You really do.
Yeah, that's me. Okay, news in...
DNA.
Genetic genealogy.
Oh.
No, DNA.
All right, good.
Sure. So, guess what? Ancestry has spent the last 10 months reprocessing the ethnicity estimates of their entire database of more than 10 million customers.
Oh, my gosh.
And rolled it out on the same day. Everybody's on the same day, on September 12th.
I saw something about this because I have some friends that I didn't even know on Facebook. I mean, I know them on Facebook, but I didn't know that they were interested in DNA or genealogy. And people were writing about this. So, it changed their heritage. Or percentage of their heritage.
Yeah, here's the complaint that I constantly have, and there were people getting hysterical on Facebook about it because this one woman said, I hate this new ethnicity estimate. It's ruined everything. I've spent 10 years separating my maternal from paternal side, and now this just messes everything up. And so people were trying to say, the ethnicity has nothing to do with your DNA matches. It's not, you can't just because, it was. And so, we were trying to explain, and I got on. I said, look, just so you know, you maybe talk to a genetic genealogist, and they'll explain the difference between the ethnicity estimate and your DNA matches. And she says, my cousin's a genetic genealogist and she's taught me all this stuff, so I know what I'm talking about. Well, And then I said something like, well, you need to use your words better. And then I got blocked.
Wow. Wow. But, aren't you the one who changed your hair color when you found out that you might be, Scottish?
Irish. But I am Scottish.
Okay.
Yes, I am that one.
So when you found out, when perhaps instead of being 70% Scottish, and you went down to 60, did you start to streak your hair a different color now?
No, I just realized I didn't like the way it faded, and so I just went, actually, so. And it is true when you first start doing it, because, I was 45% Irish on my original ethnicity estimate.
Okay.
And I took that as God's truth.
Right.
So I really thought that was it. I really thought I was looking for an Irish man to be my father. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So, you guys, grain of salt. I mean, it's getting better and better.
And you wasted a lot of hair dye on that.
So much. So here's my before and after.
Oh, good.
Ethnicity estimate. So before, I had it right in front of me. 44% Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Okay. That's not my original one. This is probably the third or fourth one since I joined a few years ago.
How often do they change that algorithm and redo?
It seems like, this is the biggest, but it seems like they change it maybe once a year.
Okay.
And they're doing that based on new customers and a new database and new samples.
So you think that this is getting more accurate then?
I think so.
Because the more samples that they have to draw from.
Yeah, I think the more they can pinpoint it.
Right.
I'm hearing mixed things about what people are saying. I don't know if they're disappointed or what.
The jury's still out.
So before this latest change, my ethnicity was 44% Ireland, Scotland, Wales. 30% Europe West, which I took as German. It could be France, Germany, Holland. 7% Iberian Peninsula. That's the big mystery, because that's Spain. And for a while, and I've had that one since the beginning. And for a while, remember when I thought that Malcolm was my father and his grandfather looked like he could have been Italian or Spanish or even mulatto?
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought originally that might have been where that came from. But hey, not my dad. Anyway, 4% Europe East, 4% Scandinavia, 4% Finland, Northwest Russia, 3% Great Britain, only 3% Great Britain. Guys, that's basically where almost my entire family's from. Well, England in general.
Right.
And 2% Europe South. So, grain of salt, everyone. Here's the new one. Now, this makes more sense to me. 61% England, Wales, and Northwest Europe.
Oh, so now we understand why you're an Anglophile.
61% England, Wales, and that really makes sense because most of my relatives, my British relatives, are from the north of England, like Yorkshire and Chester, which is literally right next to Wales. So I'm sure there's a lot of crossover there. 33% Ireland, Scotland. Mm-hmm. So that's still there, but the Scotland, I think, is stronger than the Ireland. I only know of one actually Irish ancestor. 3% Germanic Europe and 3% Sweden. That's it.
Oh my! So they really kind of cut you out of some of the other countries and some of the nationalities.
But it all makes sense.
It's funny when you get down to 3% and 2%, and you're like, well, how far, who are they, and how far back are we going here?
Well, and again, it's an estimate, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. You really do. It's not, we always say DNA doesn't lie. We're not talking about ethnicity estimates. We're talking about relative matching.
Yes, which is a whole other story because a lot of people go onto Ancestry just to find out their ethnicity, correct?
I dare say the majority.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's bitterly disappointing for a lot of them. And a lot of us who want to talk to them and they don't even know we exist.
Oh, well, everybody's got their own agenda.
Absolutely.
Right? What's important to you, may not be important to someone else. I get it.
I read this interesting article about Thomas Jefferson's descendants.
Ooh.
Yes.
Is this a Sally Hemings reference?
It is a Sally Hemings
I love that
reference.
stuff.
So Sally Hemings, as most of us know, was Thomas Jefferson's slave with whom he had a relationship with for 30 years, starting in 1787 when she was just 14.
All right.
It was a different time.
It was a different time, when the lifespan was probably 30.
Yeah, or 50. I don't know.
I'm thinking Logan's Run. Didn't that? Remember Logan's Run?
But you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, you had to go on Carousel. Remember?
That scared the bejesus out
Oh,
of
my
me.
gosh. Folks, we're talking about a movie from the 70s.
Farrah Fawcett was in it.
Farrah Fawcett and Michael York and Jenny Agutter. Anyway, I remember...
Did you say Jenny Agutter?
I do, but it's probably...
I think it's Agater.
Oh, God. Corrections Corner next week. I can hear it now. She's going to call in.
Okay.
Anyway, and when people did not live past 30 because they had to go on this carousel and die, and then it turned out there is no sanctuary. Look it up, people. It's a really old reference.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, Sally Hemings.
Sally Hemings. Okay. So, and she was started at 14. So she had at least 5 children with him. Some say 6.
Wow.
And he swore he would free her and their children. But it actually didn't happen until after he passed. This is interesting. The black descendants have faced discrimination from white Jefferson descendants.
What a shock that is.
I know, it's shocking, isn't it? Listen to this. Ellen Wells Randolph Coolidge, that's quite a name, granddaughter, said it is a moral impossibility. Jefferson was too good of a man and a father to have a relationship with a slave, much less one so close to the family.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. And also, they didn't believe that he would rear a race of half-breeds.
Half-breeds?
Half-breed.
Half-breed.
Share reference. Oh, we're in so much trouble. Okay, moving on. So even when DNA evidence finally proved Jefferson the father of some of Sally Hemings' descendants, some of the white descendants continued to deny it.
Wow.
Some of Jefferson's white grandchildren and great-grandchildren fought in the Civil War for the Confederates, and while 4 of Sally Hemings' grandchildren fought for the Union. 2 fought as white men, 2 identified as black men.
I'm sure that there's probably books and movies about this because and if not,
I'm surprised there hasn't been like a Sally Hemings musical. Hello?
Hello, I should write it.
You
right?
should.
Oh my God.
Once again, another show I'm not right for.
We'll do the all-white version.
Oh, I could be Martha.
It was like in high school when we did
Dreamgirls?
We did not do Dreamgirls. We did my chorus did selections from The Wiz, and it was probably 99% white.
Of course. Yeah, we did too.
Ease on down the road. I don't think we even realized how ridiculous we sounded, but we did. We did it.
I made fun of everybody else because I had soul. Okay.
You do have soul.
I do.
Yes. All right, Sally Hemings.
So Sally Hemings, in 1999, less than a year after DNA evidence proved Thomas Jefferson was the father of Sally Hemings' children, some of Jefferson's white descendants attempted to kick his black descendants out of a luncheon. It was the 86th annual Monticello Association meeting, and the white members voted on whether to let the black descendants stay while they debated the scientific evidence.
Unbelievable.
I love that. I love the fact that they're debating science. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really surprise me because people are still debating science. So, and for other topics.
Yes.
So, yes.
It's nutty. Deborah Edwards, a descendant of Madison Hemings, told the WAPO, Washington Post, in days gone by, they wore Wamsutta sheets and pillowcases. Today they wear suits. Same scene, different days.
I don't even know what to say to that. What does that mean?
She's saying that they're KKK.
Oh,
the sheets.
It's so funny. I would never thought.
Wamsutta. Whoever thought to label the sheets that the KKK wear?
I guess there was never like an ad for a sheet company that said, the official white sheets of the KKK.
I never, until I read this, I never realized that or thought that they were actual sheets.
There might have been some white supremacist, Betsy Ross that was sewing them the right way at the time.
White supremacist Betsy Ross. Yay, that's going to be the title of this episode. Okay.
Betsy Ross was not a white supremacist.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
using
get
her.
that clear.
Yes, I'm using this as a reference.
Oh, boy.
For a joke, people.
This is fun. One of the white descendants, Teresa Shackelford, denied the claim. She said, "We'd like more thorough research. We're not racists. We're snobs." You're both, lady.
If there's one thing I hate worse than a racist, it's a racist snob.
There's nothing worse. When two of Jefferson's black children or grandchildren, I think it's children, chose different paths, Easton Hemings Jefferson decided to live as a white man, and Madison Hemings identified as a black man. It shaped their descendants' story. Frederick Madison Roberts, the grandson of Madison Hemings and the great-grandson of Thomas Jefferson, became the first black man elected to the California State Assembly in 1918.
Wow.
How cool is that?
That is, it's kind of unbelievable when you think about that year. I mean,
Yes, 1918.
Yeah.
Go figure. Jefferson's home in Monticello has been a museum since 1923. But for nearly a century, Monticello largely ignored the role of Sally Hemings played in Jefferson's life and family. In 1941, the Thomas Jefferson Foundation turned Sally Hemings' room into a bathroom. I don't know if it was a public bathroom, but how insulting is that?
Right.
Yeah. But starting in the 1990s, Monticello began to include information about Hemings, much to the disdain of those who claimed Jefferson never fathered children with her. Finally, in June 2018, Monticello launched a new exhibit highlighting Sally's life and important role in American history. It will portray her outside of the mystery. She was a mother, a sister, and ancestor for her descendants. And the room's presentation will really just shape her as a person and give her a presence outside of the wonder of their relationship.
Wow. And it only took 200 years.
That's all. Just a hop, skip, and a jump.
But
Right.
it is amazing, though, when you think about it. The way, I'm just going to reference the way you were accepted into, say, Malcolm's family when they thought you were truly a member of the family.
Yep.
But that this is the same thing, except they were black and the other family was white, and there's a racial problem. And he was a historical figure, and they have sort of that snobbish, we're related to Jefferson, you know.
Right.
But
They
still,
don't
I think it's more
want it marred by this, mixed race extravaganza.
Right. And this whole thing about making our founding fathers or anybody into saints, is
None of them were, guys.
None of them. Everybody is flawed. And everyone I know, including...
Except me.
Yeah,
Oh, right. Okay.
No, I mean, honestly, think about it. People that you love, and you love them deeply, but they are flawed, and that's what makes them human. And of course, it would not be beyond the realm of belief that somebody would have a relationship with their slave that was in their home. That someone,
come on. I mean, whoever said that was a woman who didn't know men at all.
And from what I remember, and I don't know a lot about this, but historians claim that they actually had a relationship. It wasn't, as much as she could be a willing participant as a slave, but that they sort of painted it as a love story, correct, and not a rape.
No, it wasn't a rape situation, as far as I know.
Right.
I wasn't there. I believe actually that Sally Hemings was the daughter of, I can't remember her mother's name, who was mixed race, and she was the lover of Thomas Jefferson's father. And Sally Hemings was then, of course, mixed race. And but it started a generation before her.
So there's a little incestual thing there going on as well. I mean, keeping it in the family.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Literally.
Ooh, I think I'm done with this topic. I'm fine when it's all about
once you get into that uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, no, I'm like, I'm sorry. Now we got into incest. I'm done.
We're out of here. Okay, let's take a break.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now back to Julie and me.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
With episode 21. We are finally at 21. Therefore, we can go into a bar
Oh my gosh.
I'm pulling that old joke out again.
Well, no, if our podcast was 21, is episode 21, because we have not been on for 21 years. But 21 episodes, it only felt like 21 years. We could officially kick our podcast out of the house.
Yes.
And emancipate them. No, they're emancipated at 18.
They're naturally emancipated, I believe, at 18.
Yeah, but it takes 3 more years before they can have a drink.
Hey, let's talk about genetic memory.
Ooh.
Do you know anything about that?
I think I knew it, but I forgot.
Okay. So it's been recently discovered, and it hasn't been hashed out, like they don't know exactly how this works, but memories can pass between generations through DNA.
Wow.
So we might be born with memories imprinted in our genetic material.
Is it? Do you mean like actual memory or instinct? You know.
I would say instinct.
Yeah.
Because they say it could explain why some people know things that they never learned, such as playing the piano.
Gosh, is piano playing instinct? Because I worked hard at it. I'm a pianist, and I worked really hard.
I'm going to give you an example. My mother did not have a musical bone in her body, my adoptive mother. But so she had no rhythm. She'd never had any training or anything, but she longed for a piano, and she wanted for me to learn the piano. So they finally got a piano, and my mom went in there and she sat down and she played it.
Really?
It wasn't great, but she played with both hands, and I recognized the melody.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and I to this day I can't figure out did I not hear that right? But every time she would sit down and play, it would be one of the songs that she sang me at bedtime. One of those random songs that you shouldn't sing to children.
So she didn't have lessons when she was a child or
Absolutely
anything?
not.
No, really?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, that kind of makes sense. My mom was a pianist. You know that.
Yeah.
And I'm a pianist.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say that I could just sit down when I was a kid and play.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that there is something in that ability and that talent that the reason I can do it
Oh, absolutely.
is because it comes through her,
I think so.
But then I have 2 brothers who don't play. So,
Right. And because my mother wanted me to play, of course I don't play. I hated piano lessons.
Really?
I hated it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was subconscious because she really wanted me to do it. And I really wanted to dance.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Are you a good
it would
dancer?
have been helpful.
Are you a good dancer?
No, I wasn't allowed to. I would be a good dancer.
No, but you've been in musical theater, so you had to dance.
Instinct.
There it goes.
Instinct. There it is. I have natural rhythm. Don't know why.
And soul.
It's possible that our most basic survival instincts came from some long ago trauma experienced by a dead relative. Memories would have to shape the genetic material in a way that can be carried on to your children. You'd have to have the memories before you have children, obviously, and they would have to have impacted your genetic material in a way that would have manifested in the genetic material of your child. So it has to be, they're breaking it down as much as that.
Wow.
The genetic material, holds actual memories. Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And here's how they arrived at that, or some of the ways. So lab rodents have been known to breed learn into the next generation. If lab rats find themselves in a certain maze and their parents had learned something about that maze, scientists have observed that the little rodents don't have to start from scratch. They already know the tricks.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yes.
Instinct can be considered a form of memory from our ancestors. There's a possibility that genetic memory is linked to the intergenerational trauma and the transmission of historical oppression.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole term paper, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, it's funny. We talk about, how dogs are bred, animals are bred for certain traits. And of course, my dog didn't learn how to, sniff certain things, but he just naturally does it, and he he digs or he kicks after he pees.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too. And my Pomeranian is an indoor dog. He was trained indoors on paper.
Right.
But if he pees outside, he instinctively kicks the dirt away or on top of it after. Isn't that weird?
I know, and I gave my dog this little toy. I don't know, it was like a little toy bear or something. And he grabs it and he shakes it like he's trying to break its neck. And and it's hysterical because it's not a real living animal. But still, like,
is that why they shake it?
Yeah, that's to break their necks to kill them because they can't eat them while they're alive.
Right, that's true. And I also have a golden retriever, and they're bird dogs. Did you know that they have? This particular dog has a naturally soft mouth, meaning it has sharp teeth, but it never bears down.
Wow.
You can put in, we did this with Brooklyn, actually, because their mouth is so soft, you can put a raw egg in their mouth, in the shell.
Yeah.
And they won't bear down on it. They can carry it around with them. Unfortunately, with Brooklyn... She did keep it in her mouth, but as soon as we tried to get it away from her, she likes to play keep away. So that's when it all went.
And then she hid the egg somewhere in the house until you had to wait until it rotted.
No, we just had to wait for her. We just had to let it break in her mouth. And,
Yeah, that must have been a pretty experiment.
It was fun.
But I guess my point about the dog is and all that and the breeding is that maybe there is something to this genetic memory. And honestly, when you first said it, I thought, that's
animals.
weird. But you're right.
Yeah.
We're all animals.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
some of us more than others.
Right. Indeed. Okay, so if your trauma is severe, then it could impact your genetic material depending on the condition of your body. It may be the underlying cause of phobias. Fear of spiders may, in fact, be a defense mechanism. Now, I have that too.
Fear of spiders?
Yes.
Oh, me too.
Big time. I mean, to the point of horror. We had huntsman spiders in my house when I was a kid, and I was the only one in my house afraid of them. They were as big as my hand, Rich. They weren't as fat as tarantulas. Tarantulas are the worst. But they were big, and they were like jumping spiders, and they would be inside the house, and I was horrified. We had to suck them up with a vacuum cleaner. Ugh. That was the only way that I could get them out. And one day I went in to say goodnight to my mom, to kiss my mom goodnight, and there was a spider on the wall right above her, a big old huntsman. And I said, Mom, dude, what? And she goes, leave it there. It's good luck. It's a money spider. What?
Money.
Who are these people?
Money in that if it killed you in your sleep, she would get the insurance money.
Right.
I was in upstate New York once staying with a friend, and I went into my room, and I got into the bed, and I was under the covers, and I looked up at the ceiling, and there was a big spider right above the... And I'm like, all right, it's above me, whatever, it's fine. And then it came down onto the sheet, and I was under the sheet.
Oh, dear God.
And I'm like, okay, I need to get up. And it started jumping or hopping toward me, not away from me, toward me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have screamed. Yeah, so that's genetic memory, guys. Let us know if you have anything to add to that.
I'm going to have to start thinking about like what phobias I may have besides this that could have been passed down from previous generations.
Right. Exactly. For me, I find it interesting that I'm still I have had this overwhelming desire to sing and dance since I was a baby, and that certainly didn't come from nurture,
right?
Because my parents never did that and were not interested in it. Now that I found both sides of my family, there's not a lot of it there. I mean, my mother did sing, and her sisters sang. So she sang. In fact, I think she used to sing in pub bands when she got pregnant with me. Okay. And then I've recently found a distant cousin who's a singer. And actually there was another distant cousin that lived in California. She was born in Sydney, and she was an opera singer in Sydney. She was like an up and coming opera singer.
There's something to this.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And then she came here. Did I tell you this? She moved here after her first husband was American and he died in World War II. And she had a son with him. Then she got married again and she came to the U.S. And she lived in Ventura the rest of her life.
Wow.
And I discovered that right as I was finding my father, my biological father. And my cousin, who is her great nephew, was... told me about her, and he said, I'll see if I can get in touch with her, and maybe you can go meet her, which was so exciting for me. And around the 4th of July of last year, he texts me and says, you're not going to believe this, Sheena just died. She was like 99 years old.
Wow.
And she had just died. Literally after I'd found her, but before I got to meet her. Ugh. Sad.
It is sad.
Yeah. It was weird. Another one of those weird coinky things.
I know.
Yeah. So
don't put off today till tomorrow.
Which can be done tomorrow.
No, don't put off till tomorrow what can be done today.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh, we need a break.
Ersatz Philosophers.
We'll be back.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon Jackson with Renee Colvert.
And we are back.
Yay!
From that break. So it's time for the Epic Odyssey.
Epic Odyssey. I'm excited to hear what's next because I feel like last week was so satisfying where you finally found your birth father and like we've been waiting for 20 weeks to, to get that information, that answer, and it was so satisfying to know.
It was nice to be able to finally get that off my chest.
I
by
bet.
The way. It really was because people were like, what? I have to know now.
You did a really good job when you were telling the story to not sort of let that slip.
Telegraph?
You know, well, all of that stuff, about with Malcolm and all of the different relatives and all that.
Right.
You could have just skipped ahead and said, oh, yeah, and by the way, I actually thought there was someone else, my dad, but it wasn't him. And that would have been it. But instead we were able to...
Well, that would have been a terrible story and we would have been done a long time ago.
You're a better storyteller than I.
Clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so there are more things happening.
Of course. By the way, I saw the picture you put up on Facebook of him with the diploma, and I can see...
Isn't that the sweetest picture?
It is just, people, go to the Facebook page and look at the picture of Julie's birth father as an old man.
Yeah.
Getting
in his 70s, getting his
college diploma, and it is just the sweetest thing. It looks like
I love that picture.
It looks like an ad for a university or something.
Yeah. I love it. It's great. And then the other ones, the side-by-sides. He was I have lots of pictures of him when he was in the Navy.
That's so great.
He was so handsome.
He was.
Wasn't he handsome?
Adorable little guy. Yeah.
He was. Little. He was little.
Yeah, well,
Well, explains a lot. Okay. So when last we spoke, I had finally confirmed that my father was indeed Clive Edgar Fisher. And that was exciting. I got to really start digging in to this family, and I wanted to. I didn't think I would get to know anything since he passed away in 2009. I thought that was the end of it. I wouldn't be able to know anything else because Rob had obviously never heard mention of my mother or anything. So he started introducing me to some of my first cousins. A couple of them, Kayleen and Heather, are. They're my aunts. So there are twins in every a generation of this family. So Rob is a twin.
Is that something that's genetic as well? Wow.
Yeah, there are twins, a lot of twins on that side of the family. Every generation has a set.
Now that you know that, aren't you glad you didn't have twins?
Yes, I am. I can't imagine having two people inside.
I mean,
of me.
I think that your kids look alike.
Crazy alike.
Yeah, crazy alike. Mm-hmm. But they're not. They're certainly
They are 5 years apart, guys. I'm easily overwhelmed. Let's just leave it at that. So my father's only sister, Jean, who was one of the fraternal twins, she had a brother as well who passed away in the 60s. She had two daughters named Kayleen and Heather.
Okay.
And I was having conversations with them on Facebook Messenger, as I do. And they were actually at Heather's house at the time. And Heather mentioned that she had a bunch of journal-type books that my grandfather had. These books were apparently transcriptions of the letters all of his children sent him over the years.
Oh, my God.
And so she took a picture of one and she sent it to me. So there appeared to be letters that my father and his siblings wrote to him over the years. For some reason, he transcribed them into the books instead of just keeping the letters. At first, I thought they were the letters, and I was amazed at the beautiful handwriting. But it was my grandfather's handwriting. My father had nice handwriting, too. I've seen some of his.
That's nice.
I don't. Anyway, they were all in one place. And so they sent me a picture of one, and all of a sudden I realized, this could be a gold mine for me.
Definitely.
I'm going to learn stuff. So I then asked my cousin to take pictures of every single page and every day send me another one in chronological order so I could just break it down. So he began every letter with this: Dear Dad, I hope this letter finds you well as it leaves me. Now, that's somebody who's been trained to write letters. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I always come back to, he left school when he was 14.
Right.
But his mother died when he was 9. But he had these skills that, and his writing was actually amazing.
The things we had to do with words before we had emojis to show us what emotions we were feeling.
Things we had to do. We had to actually express ourselves with words from the dictionary instead of little pictures.
Oh, to imagine every time I've sent a heart to somebody that I have to say, what I'm really feeling.
It's true. So he had recently left the Navy in the early 60s. He left the Royal Australian Navy and began life as a civilian. Now, in these early letters, he was living in a boarding house on Mount Alexander Road in a place called Moonee Ponds, which is very close to where I grew up. In fact, I Google mapped that address to my address where I grew up. It's 11 minutes door to door.
And were you still living there at the time, or?
No, I wasn't even born yet. Remember?
Okay. Well, I'm trying to figure out the dates and
Yeah, no. This was 1963.
Okay, yes.
62, 63.
Yeah.
So he had started a job at the Melbourne Rail Yard and was attending night school. He actually said at one point to his father, I will become a geologist. He wanted to be a geologist. The will was in all caps.
And you're a genealogist.
I know. So he left school at 14, as I said, because he had to support his family. But he still wanted to continue his education, which I find so admirable. He described an active social life. He went to dances, local dances, and had at least 2 girlfriends that were nurses. He didn't mention their names, but of course it piques my interest because my mother was a nurse when she became pregnant with me. So I've just read each one like saying, say a name.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I bet, right?
Yes. So the home base, as I said, was in Deniliquin, New South Wales. My Aunt Jean still lived there with her husband and kids, and that's where all the family gatherings were held. My grandfather, William, who everybody called Papa, he was retired but was living somewhere up north in New South Wales and working a pensioner's job, I think is what it was called. But so they would write letters back and forth. In June of 1963, Jean's twin, Dawn, died of unnatural causes, which I'm sure was tragic. So now their mother had a brother who died as a baby. And then their mother died when my father was 9, and then Dawn died in the 60s.
That's a lot of family tragedy.
Yeah, a lot.
And I can't help but think, it's just such a shame that he never got to know that he had you.
Yeah.
It's just, especially after having so much loss in his family, and that he never even knew.
Yeah. It is
that
sad.
you
It
existed,
makes me sad.
right?
It makes me sad sometimes. But he knows, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's. I like thinking that way. Anyway.
I do too. So in one of the letters, Papa mentioned the cost of Dawn's funeral, like they were still paying for Dawn's funeral. So Clive was sending him money to help pay for it from his job and still going to night school. It's amazing.
Yes.
They read like a diary.
I bet, yeah.
Only better because he had an audience. It wasn't just a diary. He was doing it in a descriptive way for his father. It was so cool.
What a gift this is to you.
It is, absolutely.
Because who has that?
I know. And the writing style is what freaks me out because it's not unlike my writing style. It's just very non sequitur and stream of consciousness, which I love. He talked about he was always having trouble with his cars, and he had these hilarious stories about it constantly breaking down. And well-meaning locals would have to tow him out of wherever he was. He talked about girls a lot. He called them dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Or sorts.
There's a Damon Runyon, Guys and Dolls.
Yes. Or sort. She's a good sort.
Good sort.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very Australian thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would say that. Well, maybe I'm
Good
wrong.
sort.
but
She's a good
sort.
sort. I think they may have said it here.
Maybe.
I don't know. So he had a pen pal in England who was a girl named Frances. And I didn't find out exactly who she was until later. In fact, my brother, I think, said, oh, yeah, he had a pen pal in England. So that's who he was talking about. But he mentioned her a lot in his letters to his father. And she'd sent him photographs of herself in a bikini. And another one of herself with her horse. She had a show horse that she would... and so he was describing it to him. And the bikini picture really made an impression because he brought it up more than once.
Wow.
In more than one letter. Like, wow, but she sure does look good in that bikini.
I mean, of course, now I know you, Julie, pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, are you already trying to find this Francis and get those letters that he wrote? He was a pen pal.
You know what? I've thought about that, but there's no way. I know that she lived in Exeter.
Yeah,
but
and you don't have a last name.
And she had horses.
Yeah. And a bikini.
Yeah, and clearly a bikini. She was ahead of her time.
Well, I'm just saying, wouldn't that be fascinating to see that?
Yeah.
Those letters,
Yeah. Well, there's more.
Oh.
There's more. So the regular letters continued for a year. And I started to realize that it was getting very close to when I was to be conceived.
Wow. Oh, my
Very
gosh.
close. So I was just like chomping at the bit, waiting for the next one. On April 8th, on the letter dated April 8th, 1964, 364 days before my birth, Clive wrote about having a brief phone conversation with his dad the previous night and something about being cut off. And, he was mad at the operator or something. The next letter that was sent to me was October 19th, 1964. So I was conceived in July or August of 1964.
Okay.
There was nothing between April 8th and October 19th of 1964. And I talked to my cousin. I said, is there a book missing? Did you go out of order? She goes, I can't see any others. So there were no letters during that important time where it could have explained everything.
You could almost describe that away as like, oh, well, he was having this relationship with your birth mother and he was too busy. But he wasn't, because your birth mother would have remembered him.
There was no relationship.
Yeah.
Unless there was really a relationship. But I don't know. It's a quandary.
Wow.
So that was the last letter between that and October 19th. So on October 19th, he wrote, and it was coming from the SS Canberra, a passenger ship bound for Southampton.
Right.
He was going to meet Frances. Yeah. So
Francis the talking mule.
Francis.
That's what's gonna. Now it was a horse. He really wanted to see that bikini.
He couldn't get it out of his mind.
Or
obviously.
that horse. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I asked Kayleen, and she said that there was nothing else.
What a shame.
Yeah.
Like you're just looking for that clue, right?
Right. So
what was he going to say to his dad? I had this one night stand with this nurse.
He wouldn't tell him. However, it's just weird to me that there's this huge chunk missing. Was somebody editing? I don't think my cousins are editing.
No.
But maybe my grandfather thought, maybe I shouldn't transcribe these, or.
So, in the previous letters, how often were they? Like
once or twice a week.
Okay, and then there was that gap.
Huge gap.
Oh my God!
He wrote regularly.
Yeah, this is like this is a case for like Miss Marple.
I know. Once again,
like why is there suddenly this gap right at the exact time?
At the exact time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it blows my mind. So, and then they continued after that for years. I'll tell you more about it next week.
That's fascinating. It's amazing what you can learn about somebody from their writings. I mean, obviously,
Absolutely.
I always think about that now, where we don't write letters like we write emails, but it's not the same thing.
It's a gift. It's a gift to have those, especially from people who are descriptive in their writing, and you can get a sense of them.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's really a gift.
Oh my gosh,
excited about
that is
it.
fascinating.
Right.
Wow.
So we will get to the rest of the letters next week.
After my mom passed, she had gotten in touch with a friend of hers from high school or something that she hadn't been in touch with many years, and she was corresponding with him through email, and just talking about her life, whatever. And then after she passed, he sent me the whole trove of emails, and it was so fascinating to see the stuff. The way my mom talked to somebody who wasn't a member of the family, didn't talk to me that way, you know. I got to know her in a different way, you
Absolutely.
know, through the letters because of who she was talking to.
There were things that probably weren't necessarily, she wouldn't have necessarily said to you.
Exactly.
My mother kept diaries her entire life.
Wow.
And right up through my childhood, mine and my brother's childhood. And I have those now.
Yeah.
And they are so great to read. There are so many stories, like there are crazy stories from my parents' honeymoon in Europe that I remember them telling me over the years, but then reading it at the time that it happened was the coolest thing ever. I'm actually thinking of doing another blog called My Mother's Diaries, or In My Mother's Words, something like that. So I could transcribe the actual chapter and then explain what exactly was going on there. And
that would be a gift to your own children, because you know what I mean? Because look at what you're doing with your birth father.
Yeah.
And that was left behind, obviously not for you, but that's something you could do. And I think that your kids at some point in their lives would really appreciate that.
Yeah,
so,
I hope so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think everybody does eventually.
Tell people about yourself.
As if they haven't heard enough from me this week. I am Richard Castle. I am a musician and songwriter and a musical theater writer. And you can look at my website at richardcastle.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at CastleSongs.
And I am Julie Dixon Jackson. On Twitter, I am at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. The podcast on Twitter is at Cutoff Jeans Pod. There's also a Facebook group called the Cutoff Jeans Podcast. And you can email me directly if you like, julesjackson@cutoffjeans.com. Please share with your friends. Please subscribe. Please leave reviews, or at least ratings on iTunes, because it really, really helps us. Every extra just increases our visibility.
And since this was my first podcast at writing solo as a co-host, please be kind.
Yes. Okay, let's get out of here. Hey guys, please don't forget that the truth is in your jeans.